The earliest philosophers, scientists, and statesmen who lived within 100 to 200 years of the gospel claims rejected Christianity outright. Celsus, writing in the late 2nd century, called Christianity a superstition for the uneducated, a movement that rejects reason and appeals to fools and the unlearned. Galen, one of the most respected medical minds in the empire, grouped Christians with those who make up stories and refuse to demonstrate what they believe. To paraphrase, he stated Christians and Jews accept dogma without inquiry. They preach certainty but flee from reason. They believe not because they have proven, but because they have been told. And then there was Lucian, a Roman satirist, mocked early Christians for worshiping a crucified con man and embracing death like it was a badge of honor. And then Tacitus, perhaps the most respected Roman historian, didn't just reject Christianity, he called it a pernicious superstition, born from shame and followed by the gullible. To him, Christianity likely looked like an irrational emotional cult that weaponized suffering and ignorance. These weren't disillusioned atheists. These were the intellectual elite of the empire, people trained in logic, philosophy, history, and public life, and they saw Christianity as irrational, fabricated, and socially dangerous.
First, it must be noted that the mere denial of a fact by certain persons does not of itself entail its non-existence in the order of reality, for the Christian mystery affirms nothing less than the death and resurrection of the God-man, Jesus Christ. Hence, it is altogether to be expected, according to the ordinary course of human nature wounded by original sin, that many should judge such an event impossible, and the hope of the faithful vain. Were one to proclaim the resurrection of a dead man without the accompaniment of signs, testimonies, and divine authority, this would indeed reduce it to the level of a common natural occurrence, contrary to its supernatural singularity. Thus, the opposition of statesmen and philosophers of antiquity does not disprove the resurrection. Rather, it serves as an extrinsic confirmation of the universality and public notoriety of the public apostolic mission. For by their very denials, these adversaries bear witness that the same singular truth, namely, that Jesus Christ truly suffered death under Pontius Pilate and rose again on the 3rd day, was being proclaimed throughout the Roman world, both within and beyond the community of believers. These opponents, therefore, though intending harm, unwittingly render a service to the Christian cause. By their objections, they attest that the doctrine of the resurrection had already spread far and wide, manifesting its objective force even among those who rejected it. To dismiss Christianity as a mere superstition, suited only to the uneducated, is likewise the response one ought to anticipate from intellects habituated to the sensible order and bound to the potency of corruptible matter. Their minds, not yet elevated by the light of faith, nor adequately instructed in the distinction between the natural and the supernatural, find it inconceivable that a human body, by the supreme efficacy of divine power, should pass from the privation of life to the perfection of immortal glory. Nevertheless, history manifests the contrary, for the Christian religion has never been destitute of rational defense. In opposition to Celsus, who derided it as a fable for the ignorant, and to Galen, who acknowledged the moral probity of Christians while censoring their mode of ascent, we observe that countless Roman officials, soldiers, and even philosophers were suddenly converted by supernatural means. Many of these sealed their faith in martyrdom, their deaths frequently accompanied by manifest prodigies, which as sensible effects exceeding the proportion of natural causes, moved others to conversion. Such signs are not to be despised, but rightly considered as instruments of divine providence, proceeding from the first cause and leading the intellect through the visible to ascent to the invisible. Nor is it argued in good faith to label Christ as a deceiver or impostor. We preach Christ crucified, a stumbling block to the Jews, according to their expectation of a temporal Messiah, and foolishness to the Greeks, according to the wisdom of this world, precisely as the scriptures had foretold, that the wise according to the flesh should so judge the mystery of the cross is itself the fulfillment of prophecy and confirmation of divine wisdom, which chooses the weak things of the world to confound the strong. Nevertheless, the historical reality remains intact. Christ was truly crucified, died, and was buried, and he truly rose again. This we shall proclaim until his glorious return. As to the further objection that Christians accept dogma without sufficient proof, let us examine the matter with greater precision, distinguishing properly between the orders of knowledge, the demand to prove the resurrection by perpetually producing the body, or by a demonstration accessible in the same manner as sensible qualities, as when we affirm that an apple is green or a banana is yellow, misapprehends the very nature of the event. For the resurrection of Christ occurred once, in a determined place and time. After rising, he appeared to the apostles, to more than 500 brethren at once, and to other chosen witnesses, before ascending to the right hand of the Father. It belongs therefore to the order of historical testimony, confirmed by miracles, not to the order of continuous sensible evidence. What can and has been offered, however, is the concordant testimony of these eyewitnesses, corroborated by innumerable miracles worked both among pagans and Jews, through which Christ is continually glorified. These miracles, as effects whose adequate cause cannot be reduced to natural powers alone, serve as moral and physical demonstrations, leading the well-disposed intellect to the recognition of the supernatural cause. Thus, in its origin and foundation, Christianity was established, not upon blind credulity, but upon fitting evidence proportioned to its object, upon right reason illuminated by faith, and ultimately upon Christ himself, who is the first truth and the author of our salvation.